Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Wolves Report. The Wolves Report is an independent football podcast bringing you the latest news and opinions on Wolverhampton Wanderers. Welcome to episode 3, where we're talking about Spurs, Forest, Adama and Bruno ball. Welcome our guest this week, our regular expert pundit, Mr. Mark Cole, former Charlton, Fulham and Chelsea academy coach. Good morning or good afternoon to where you are, Mark.
Good afternoon from where I am. How are you?
Very good, very good. Very, very good after last night. Happy. Seen some goals that were really coming. So let's kick back a few days first. Go back to Spurs. Tremendous performance. Pretty much did everything right apart from put the ball in the net.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often you come away from a defeat kind of happy. Most people think we're a little bit robbed with the penalty. We just had a little discussion about that then. You can kind of see both ways. Ultimately, though, if Adama puts his chance away, we're coming away that game with a point, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I know Adama tends to split the fans, but we've seen how important he is in those two games. He had that chance at Leicester and the chance at Spurs, but I know we're going to go into Adama separately in a little bit. But you've got to say he's getting in positions he wasn't getting into under Nuno. He's now focusing and managing to get in those positions where he can get in behind. But like I said, we'll move on to Adama a little bit later on. But in terms of the style and the press, I think before the season, these opening few games, we talked about sort of damage limitation and if we could nick something or, you know what I mean, with a lack of sort of, I mean, we had a few signings, but the lack of key signings in key areas we need in centre midfield and a centre back. But coming out of the Spurs game, like you said, what a performance, the pressing, the aggression, probably didn't create enough clear-cut chances, only probably one or two. But in terms of the number of shots created, it was such an enjoyable performance. The aggression, kind on the eye. I mean, we've pretty much the same set of players as last season. This is progress, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at it, I watched the first half against Leicester and I just thought to myself, I said to you, I just sent you a rant at half-time. Probably most words you can't probably share on here, but it was just, I was like, it's just the same old stuff, different kit, basically. And then second half we come out, and again, you can see progress almost every minute, and we carried that second half from Leicester on to the get-go from Spurs, and that's the most enjoyable first half of football I've seen, Wolves for nearly 3 seasons. And you hit the nail on the head there when you're talking about, the high press, the aggression, the chances created. I mean, I've got it here, and we had 25 shots at goal compared to Spurs' 8. Yet we both had 6 on target. So, I mean, that tells you its own story there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think watching Spurs, you couldn't help think that we'd done that to teams when Nuno was at Wolves, that we tucked in, pinched a goal and won 1-0. And it was a Wolves way for a little while of being solid and getting a goal and putting on that kind of performance. So, again, I think we underestimated how good this set of players really are, but they just need a little bit of help with 1 or 2 additions. So frustrated to come away with Spurs, come away with nothing from the Spurs game. Again, just so enjoyable to watch. But it just says, again, we're so close. Just a couple of players here and there, centre-back, centre midfielder, then we can make the switch. I mean, I will bore anybody that will read my tweets or listen to what I say about going to a back 4. I really think that'll be the difference. Switching to a back 4 then, enable them to play alongside someone alongside Raul. I think that'll be the difference.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at over the summer we spoke a lot about potential who's going to go and who's going to not. And one player we thought perhaps a bit like Diogo Jota maybe come to the end of their best years at Wolves and perhaps might benefit from a new challenge was Ruben Neves. But you have to say, it looks like he's been given a new lease of life under Bruno, doesn't he? Like playing a bit higher up the pitch. He's been superb. He's been absolutely superb. I mean, that ball to play Adama through, I mean, I could just watch it all day long. It's just beautiful. That's classic Neves. And I can't remember one occasion where he played a ball like that last season under Nuno.
Yeah, I think, the last kind of ball like that really was probably the Leicester game when Jota scored in injury time. He put that diagonal, that ball into Raul, who squared it against Leicester. But it's almost like Wolves. I know we're going back to Nuno again, but in terms of the style of play, it became more about not wanting to lose than it was winning, which then sort of took the flair and the creativity away a little bit from Neves. I was always split on whether Neves could play further up, but he's positive press. He's so good at putting them tackles in and winning the ball high up as well. And that gets the whole team up the pitch. I mean, And like I said, we'll go on to Forest a little bit later on, but Forest could not breathe last night. They did not get a chance, and it was fantastic. But let's just round up the Spurs game then. I mean, more of that as the season goes on, with a couple of additions. And as I said then, we didn't really touch on it, but imagine that performance going to a back four with a number 10 or a striker next to Raul, and that squeezing up. There's goals there, isn't there?
Oh, I mean, there's goals already there. Just a bit of fine tuning. But again, like over the last couple of games, we kind of, when we talk about the window a bit later, but we talk about the need for a centre back and the need of centre midfield. But then obviously Never's playing better, but also Kilman. Kilman could have scored against Leicester. He's good coming forward with the ball. There's goals in there for him. I just think he's stated a case to maybe grab one of those back four, those two centre back spots in the back four.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this a bit last week with Daz. Kilman's just, I mean, and I don't really think he had a bad game under Nuno. He just never seems to really get a consistent run in the side, but he sort of emerged this season. He looks like Wolves' most comfortable centre-back. He's so calm on the ball. He's he hardly wastes it. And I really, really enjoy when he gets the ball and he opens his legs and he takes 10 or 15 yards in front of him and drives forward, because we're not really, I mean, Willy Bolly of 18 months ago would do that, but no one else has really done that since. They probably don't have the sort of that in their locker to do that. But yeah, so overall, ridiculously promising against Spurs. Keep that up. Bigger test on Sunday. Man United, that's going to be hard.
If Southampton can get a point there, and we're playing, we're on an upward trajectory, we can do it. I mean, I'm going in there a lot more optimistic than I went into the Spurs game. Put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move a little bit closer and go to talk about last night. Now, I mean, I don't care what anyone says, whatever, you can only play the team that's in front of you. And yes, I think Forest made 10 changes, but Wolves made a handful of changes. But I've always wanted to be that Premier League team that when you get a Championship side in the Cup, you just deal with them. We've had to, as you mentioned to me earlier on in text, we've had to suffer struggling 1-0 wins or 2-1 losses or going out on penalties to a League One or a Championship side. Last night was professional, it was aggressive, it was relentless, it was kind on the eye, and some of the young players got goals. Brilliant performance. People like Podence come back, Morgan Gibbs-White stated his claim. How many times as well have we come out of those games expecting big performances from fringe players trying to state a case for their first team, and you end up thinking, well, you've blown your opportunity there, and then the game goes to replay and whatnot. It just congest the fixtures. It's just terrible all round. But yeah, very, very good. And do you know what? Like, no matter what anyone says, like you say, it may be Forest, they may be bottom of the Championship, and they've made all these changes. But people sit up and notice a scoreline like that. 4-0 away from home is good, irrespective of who you're playing and where you're playing. I mean, you've got to say as well, Mark, 74% possession, 28 shots, 9 corners. What a performance. Just absolutely delighted with it. Anyway, I think we've briefly lost Mark. Are you still there, Mark? Have you gone?
I'm here.
Yeah, you froze, mate. Yeah, so yeah, your face is frozen. Yeah, you look like you're enjoying that cup of tea. But just the performance there, but not just the performance, the goals, the way, the movement, the passes. Great to see Trinko off the mark. I know he's probably not lit everything up the first few games, but great to see him off the mark and involved in the goals.
Oh, yeah, I just wonder if we're actually playing him in the right position. I know he's kind of taking up that wide right, drifting into left, but I just wonder if there's a case for him because he's got such good feet. I wonder if he'd be better off playing in that number 10, and maybe switching with Podence every now and then, which kind of looked to me like last night that's what they were doing at times.
Yeah, I think when they eventually moved to a 4, shock of mention going 4 at the back again. When they eventually when they eventually moved to a 4, I think then we'll see a lot more fluidity. I think Trinko will cut in. I think Podence will cut across and make that run. And when you've got those two players, they can interchange. Now, I'm not sure Adama can do that so much, but when he's in the side and he's drawing 2 or 3 players towards him, he'll open up the space for those players. And that's when the number 10 will come into his own, because that space then, probably what we just missed out on at Spurs and at Leicester, was someone having that little bit closer to Raul that could pick up the scraps or be someone there as an option for a 1-2 or a shot. So, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. And I've got to give a shout out as well. I know I've criticised him quite a bit, but that's a fine finish from Gibbs-White late on, isn't it? What a goal on his right foot, sweeping that home.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? To be fair to him, you know, he hadn't performed and he deserved the criticism, I think. But the only way to shut people like you and I up is with performances. And I just think this season he's been doing just that. You know, and like, you know, that's all any of us want to see is somebody putting in, you know, a lot of effort and trying to improve. And he's doing that. He's stating a claim that finish, cut in into the far corner like that. He's got that in his locker. I hope we're now finally seeing that player that was a World Cup finalist for the England youth setup.
Yeah, you don't go that far without being talented, and I don't think that the talent's ever been in question, to be honest. So yeah, fair play to him. But let's talk about Podence as well from last night. I mean, we knew he was back in training earlier in the week. Then we sort of found out he'd been in the squad and he was travelling. I wasn't sure if he was going to start, because if you haven't been training back that long and then to play, what did he play last night? Pretty much played like 75, 80 minutes. I'm not 100%, but that's a long time for someone that's been out. But sharp in the goals, amongst it, hit the post early on. Big question is now, I mean, is he knocking on the door for Sunday, or do we stick with last week's team because it was so good and then use him as an impact player later on?
Yeah, I mean, I think given that he has played 75 minutes midweek, he'll probably start on the bench and come on as a sub. But for me, I know he didn't show it all last season, but, you know, having had groin surgery, it's quite clear he had, a significant injury that was making him underperform last season. I think he's one of our most skillful players. I mean, you don't nutmeg the PFA Player of the Year and then pop it on Jimenez's bonds, do you? But if you're not that talented, I think he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, he's an entertainer. Now, this is going back to our old boss. This isn't a criticism, but I do feel that a lot of the talented players will see more of their real selves under this system and manager, because they'll be allowed to express themselves. First of all, if you're squeezing a team high up and you've got the ball and you're not just relying on counter-attacks, the likes of Padet, we've already seen with Traore, he looks even better. Now, granted, he should have had a couple of assists and a couple of goals, but to be getting in those positions, we didn't really see him in many one-on-ones. I think he had 2 in the Man City game and then hardly any, one now and then. But now he's getting, he's getting one big chance pretty much every game. I know he should be converting, but this style of play, going back to Podence as well, I think we'll see more. He'll be able to express himself, use that talent. I know he has split the fans, but I think the start of last season, I said this a few times against Sheffield United when he went off down the left and then set Raul. As you mentioned, when he nutmegged De Bruyne, there's a player in there, and I really like him in the 10. So hopefully we can get him. Hopefully we can see that under this new setup.
He's got that little bit of nastiness in him as well, hasn't he? He's a little horror show, isn't he? Underneath there, he's just if you went into a war, even he'd be like Scrappy Doo, wouldn't he? He'd be in there after you. I like him.
But you raised another really good point there. That's something that's been noticeable for me that probably I didn't notice before because I'd never really seen it. But Wolves look a lot more aggressive, particularly the players in the middle. They're biting, they're nipping, they're chopping away. They don't mind giving a foul away in the middle. And that aggressive streak has been missing. Now, I'm not going to criticise it because it's been an amazing few years, but to take us to the next level, the teams above are savvy. They don't mind giving away those fouls in the middle of the park, and they'll try their luck with a 60-40 challenge and get away with it. But now Wolves are doing it, and you can see Matinho and Neves nip, and it's great to watch. You can see, and it gets the fans going when your players are getting stuck in. And I think that when we talk about Bruno ball being exciting to watch as well, but defensively we're more aggressive, and I think we're already starting to see the rewards.
Yeah, we are. That you're absolutely right. It's not just the skillful players, the people like Troy and Podence that get the fans out the seat. It is that fierce challenge. It is being a little bit coy and cute. And I remember watching the Spurs documentary. You remember the Amazon one about Jose Mourinho?
Yes.
And he was talking about Wolves being horrible, and he wants Spurs to be a bit more like Wolves and horrible. And we kind of lost our way, didn't we? We're doing that, and you really miss it. And again, like you said, you really appreciate when it's back. It's beautiful to watch. It really is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there as well, going back, because I mean we did get stuck in for a while, and as I remember him saying, he was going Dendonka, Neves, he was doing that on the documentary, saying about passing into people, and that Spurs game away was from our last sort of away game with fans, was really sort of, and I think that shows as well how important the fans are to Wolves with that in there. They seem to have just, with that time away, they'd sort of lost their way. Whether it's not an excuse because it was the same for everybody, but did they come a little bit soft in that time? I don't know. It's anyway, we're looking back again, but looking forwards, aggressive, attacking football, high press, and this is with pretty much last season's players. So it begs the question, if he does get backed, which we're all screaming now, if he can do this with the same players as last year and produce this football with more chances, where can Wolves go with, let's say, 3 really good signings?
Well, yeah, I mean, the answer is the sky's the limit, isn't it? I mean, if you get someone finishing the chances, we're scoring loads of goals, converting all those chances that we're creating. And if you get a good centre-back, someone who's got a bit of pace, I just feel we're at the back at the moment, we're lacking a bit of pace. I mean, Cody's been exposed a couple of times now, and it's caught us out. If we plug the back and finish the chances up the front, then we're cooking with gas, mate. Absolutely cooking with gas.
Interesting you say about pace there, and just going back to what we said about Kilman. Now, I think Max has been the standout Wolves centre-back of the 3 that have played so far. Sometimes we talked about his pace, but the recovery tackle he put in against Son the weekend showed he had a bit of speed about him. So is Max now the number 1 choice to go with a new centre-back if a new centre-back comes in?
I think so, because he's earned it. You know, that's why you have a squad, because when you lose your first choice centre-backs, you have players that come in, and the idea is they take the chance. And I feel it's good man and squad management that Kilman keeps his place on merit. The new guy comes in, he's got to earn the shirt, keeps Kilman on his toes, hopefully raises his performances. I mean, he's at that age now, I think, where he needs a run in the side. And if he's not going to get it here, we may as well let him go and find someone who is going to challenge. But I think he's earned his place in the side. He deserves to stay for the time being and be tried at a back 4. Maybe, I mean, I was reading last night, Bolly's been back in training and he should be considered for the Man United game.
I mean, that's massive, isn't it? That's massive.
It is.
Because I don't think, I mean, Cody got caught out a few times at Leicester. As you mentioned, I think off air, Saïss was probably caught a little bit sort of static for the run for the alley penalty. And it's fine margins, and those things cost you goals. So who would you drop? I mean,
listen, as a manager coming in new, he's got no loyalties to anyone. You know, I know, like Cody was Nuno's man the other way around. Sorry, so like, he's got he wants his own style, and that's 4 at the back. You know, and he did mention, I don't know where it was, but you know, through my reading, he did say that when Ollie was back, he'd like to switch to a back 4. So, is it time to do it against Man United if Bolly's ready? Who knows? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean. Where Web7 has asked on the questions there, he said, with Mosquera, Kilman and Bolly, do we need another centre-back? We definitely need another centre midfielder and a striker, but do we need a centre-back? I mean...
It's a good question.
It's a great question.
I was thinking about it earlier, you know, like if Kilman's now made himself a first-team candidate, maybe we don't. If we're going to play as a back 4, then ideally you'd say, well, you've got Bolly and Kilman, then you've got Mosquera challenging those, and then as backup, maybe you've got Saïss in behind that as a 4th. Maybe it might buy you a bit of time, you know, if funds are limited, which they are, and we'll come on to the transfer window and try her in a minute. But like, if we don't really need another centre back, are we really going to be forced to sell Traore for that money? I don't know. Let's direct our money elsewhere, a midfielder.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one with the centre backs. I mean, it's hard to judge Mosquera on the pre-season performances, but he came in and he was like, this guy is clearly better than the rest of what we've got so far. I mean, obviously we hadn't seen Kilman in pre-season play like he did, but he was quick, he was strong, he was aggressive. He was everything that Wolves didn't have at centre-back. Now, if you'd have said to me 2 weeks ago, the possibility it will be Mosquera and Kilman as your first choice centre-backs, that's a bit of a concern. But the more time goes on, I'm thinking about it, then that may be the long-term possibility, because Kilman is very much composed, he's calm, he doesn't seem to panic. And I mean, he's a big old boy, so he doesn't lose out on much. Mosquera, fast, aggressive. They could complement each other.
Yeah, I mean, not many people know this, but Kilman used to play England futsal.
He did not, did he? Let's talk about that.
He did. but what that says is he's probably as comfortable on the ball as anyone else in the side, you know, so why not?
Yeah, really, really promising. Also, M-Web7 said again the stats right at this world, 91% pass accuracy. Peter Lengro is still in bed watching us, so he's enjoying his cup of tea. Yeah. So yeah, morning everyone. Thank you for watching. So yeah, let's talk about Traore. Massive news last night, really, whether it happens or not, or if a ridiculous bid comes in. But for the manager to say after that game, after the Forest game last night, that he thinks he'll be with us at the end of the window, that's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't know. It was kind of almost semi-non-committal in a way. I just feel like he thinks. I just think, they've said it. The Wolves line, as far as I can see, has always been, if the right price comes in, we'll let him go. And for me, 45 million is taking the Michael, shall we say?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got to look. I mean, I know they're different positions, but we're talking about Kurt Zuma going for 30 million. So, I mean, different positions, and obviously you can't compare the two in some ways. But in terms of transfer, similar kind of age. I mean, so only 15 million difference. I mean,
how many players out there are like Kurt Zuma?
Yeah, there's quite a lot, isn't there?
How many players are out there like Adama Traore?
Well, this is it. And Spurs and Levy and Nuno would have watched Traore. Particularly, I mean, he was all right in the second half as well. But in that first half, he was unstoppable. He was destroyed. I mean, Spurs have got some pacey players in their side, but they was absolutely taken to the cleaners. It was, and as a fan, that's what worries me. That the fact that, I mean, I'll point back to this game because it's an easy example. But when we were playing Man United in the last game of the season, decent enough start. Traore goes off. Wolves dead. The Wolves absolutely offered hardly a thing. And I know he frustrates people, but he gets you up the pitch. People are frightened of him. He can now time his run to playing behind. I mean, I'd almost accepted a couple of days ago that he's going. And you know what? He may well still go. But for me, I want 50 plus, then the conversation. But then with that 50 plus, I want two £25 million players straight in, because there's absolutely no point selling him and not reinvesting, because he's so important to Wolves. He's a crowd pleaser. He's an entertainer. He's a unique footballer that just gets fans off this. It's great to watch. And I know he gets criticism and he can improve it, but I believe Daz Hale said last week, he's that far off. Convert those chances.
Yeah.
And that value like almost doubles. He's got to start doing that. I just hope we can keep him till Christmas to see him with a back four.
You're right. I mean, I think Nuno played him all over the place. Wing back, right wing, up front, deeper in the middle. I don't think he really knew what to do with him. But for me, like where he's lethal there, just it's frightening. But like you say, like if you can just get him scoring, if he scores every chance he gets, you're looking at close to £100 million player for me. But on that, what do you think? What do you think his shot accuracy is?
Yeah, it's
average over the last 3 seasons. What do you think it is?
Have you got the stat for me?
I bloody have, yeah.
Well, you hit me with it then, mate. I don't want you to trick me and make me look bad. You tell me what we've got there.
28%.
I mean,
it's not great, is it?
No, it's not. It's not great.
Morvani
79 asks, who do you want if Adama goes? Now, there's lots of talk, and it has been going on for years from Guedes from Valencia. Now, obviously, it's a completely different player. He's a lot more pure than Adama. Again, he would play, I think, on that left-hand side where Adama is now and cutting on his right. But then, I mean, if we keep Adama, I still think we need another kind of player like Adama, Podence, Neto, that kind of attacking midfielder forward to go in there, because if you play all three of them, who's the game changer? Granted, Gibbs White plays well. He'll probably get more minutes as a number 10 when we move to a back four. But otherwise, I don't really want to see Gibbs White wide. But in terms of Adama goes, I mean, Guedes is the only real name that I've heard that makes sense. Mendes client in the chain, Portuguese. He ticks all the boxes.
It does, but I mean, I think the reality is, because of COVID and that, if you look at the transfer market this summer, there's not been a lot of movement. People just are not selling their players because they can't get new ones in the door. And I feel like if we do let Adama go, I just feel whoever we replace him with, he's not going to be as good. And I just feel like we're running it too close to the transfer window to end. If we wanted to sell him, perhaps we should have I know his stock's a lot higher now because he started the season like a rocket, but I just feel like we're just not leaving ourselves enough time to get enough quality in.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because we could, if Wolves receive a silly offer. I mean, I really think late on the Kane transfer and maybe or the Mbappe transfer now is going to set the ball rolling, and there'll be a silly business knock-on effect. I mean, Mbappe, what they offer, 140 million euros. Yeah. I'm not sure Man City were offering 110, 120, I don't know, for Kane. And I think the later that goes on, the more dangerous it is for Wolves.
Absolutely.
Because I'm kind of pleased in some ways that Raul's been okay. He's not been bad, but he's not been great. If he'd have come out flying at the start of the season, then Spurs could have been knocking on the door for him as well. And that would have been a disaster, especially if they turned his head on that. So let's see. I mean, it's positive. If the manager's saying he thinks he'll be there, then that's fantastic news. I mean, he's a player that split the fans, and everyone's, everyone's entitled to an opinion, but I just can't understand why you wouldn't want to keep him and what he does, particularly in a more attacking side. The damage he could cause, and then with more people around him, more opportunities. I'm not going to say it again. I've said it 20 times already, but
I think from his perspective as a footballer as well, like he knows he's going to be given more exciting role under Bruno. He's kind of he's in and out under Nuno. I think it'd be like once he just that finishing clicks. We know he can do it. He did it twice against City. We know he can finish. He just needs to. What I honestly think once he gets that first goal, it's going to explode.
Matt Pugh says still needs a lot of work. He's right in terms of finishing, as you said, with his percentages. If the money's 50 million, let him go. And I would have kind of agreed with that, like as the day goes on. But as we're a day closer to the transfer window, we really need to get our finger out. And like you said, if it's no good selling for 50 million if you haven't got two players that are going to come in and improve the team. So it's risky business, isn't it? But
also, towards the end of the window, you tend to get a bit of overinflation, so we're not getting as good a value for money. And I just wonder, with all the FFP stuff rumbling in the background, if we sell him for 50 million, how much are we actually going to see of that back into transfers?
So while we're on the transfer topic, and we've got to say about 5 minutes left. Window closes on Tuesday. We've got Man United before then. My big hope before that is if we make a decision on Traoré, because I don't want Traoré's head turned before Man U, because I genuinely believe that if there's a point or three to be had, Traoré could be the difference against Man United. They're going to enjoy coming to us because we're more open now and play high up. So I don't see that game being 0-0. You watch it be 0-0 now. So yeah, going to the transfer window then. There's some good points as M Webb said earlier on in terms of centre backs. For me, the absolute priority is another centre midfielder. Jay was pulling the strings last night. That was great, pinging it round. But we need someone that can, with a little bit more energy. I mean, in terms of quality, the minutes he's played, Martinez's actually been pretty good, but he can't sustain that movement. So he's a centre midfielder.
Again, we've been caught as well before. It's all well and good now, but we're only one injury away from a crisis. Yeah.
Well, we've not learned
about that.
Yeah, well, in terms of the window, for me, in terms of improving the side, a centre midfielder would be my main one. A mobile, athletic, someone that can take and carry the ball and also get back, an all-rounder, really. I mean, who doesn't want one of those midfielders? But as you mentioned then about Raul, we are one injury away again from a big problem. Now, I think Raul started the season well. He's done okay. He's not been brilliant, but he's putting himself about there. There doesn't seem to be any fear or knock on. I think when that first goal goes in, he'll be okay again. But talk of Origi, I would.
Kiefer Moore, that's one name that's been bandied around. What are your thoughts about him?
That's a really interesting one. I mean, it feels like a blast from the past when Wolves are trying to sort of skim a championship player. I'm not going to. You can't judge someone until you've seen them. 6'5", 29. He's an absolute monster. It looks like where he plays, the fans like him, but I'm not sure how he fits into one-touch linking football. If we're whipping crosses in the box, which I know the fullbacks are trying to do and the wing-backs are trying to do, then you know what, that could be an answer. But is he going to provide enough and contribute enough to the style that Wolves want under Bruno? I'm not sure he is. Well, I think Mark's briefly gone. He's broadcasting from China. Hopefully, he'll come back in a minute.
I'm here.
Oh, you're back now, yeah. The China lag, the new variant. So, yeah, did you catch what?
It's called the Great Firewall of China, mate. That's what it's called. So, he stinks of a Mick McCarthy's obsession with Kyle Lafferty. Do you remember that back in the day?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're right. I just don't. Yeah, I mean, we're putting a few crosses into the box, not of good enough quality, I think, for him at the moment. Like you say, we look at our most dangerous when you've got people like Raul, who should be playing a bit more in the box, I think. You know what he did for with Martino, did that little flick for Jimenez, that little to put over the bar against Spurs. But that's the sort of football we tend to be playing in the box. So we need someone who's got a bit more of a brain than just the old.
I mean, I mentioned him before you mentioned Kiefer Moore. I still would really like Origi. I think there's value for money there. As I said before, you don't score Champions League semi-final and final goals if you're rubbish. And let's bear in mind, he's competing for positions with Jota, Firmino, Salah and Mane. So, you know what I mean? He's not going to start places there because they're some of the best forwards going. So if there was a deal to be had there, £15 million, someone that would compete with Raul, someone that give us another option if we went two up top. For me, if that was still on the cards, I would be all over that. I don't know any other names that have been bandied around that much apart from the sort of the clickbait stuff that you link from pretty much anybody really. But the Origi one's been there. I believe Wolves were after him in the loan window in January. I mean, I would love that addition, but I think between now and Tuesday, there's going to be a lot unfold. I think there might be a surprise exit. I think there could be multiple additions, but the truth is I genuinely don't know. I'm just saying off my gut because Wolves have kept things under wraps. We're just guessing from articles and rumours and tweets, searching the WWFC hashtag. So massive window. Is this one of the biggest windows since Fosun came?
Yeah, it has to be, because I think we're in real danger of not making the progress we want to. You know, like again, it's about making the right decisions. If we decide to sell Adama now and we don't get anyone in and there's injuries, it'll just, all of Bruno's good work so far will be undone. You've seen what a loss of form or a loss of injury can do, and it affects other players. You know, when Jimenez got injured, it affected Traore's season. You know, it was all like a downward spiral from there. So yeah, it's really important. We need to get at least 2 really good signings in through before next week. Otherwise, I think fans will start to question Fosun. You know, I don't think we need that. You know, we've worked hard behind the scenes to bring the club together, you know, on and off the pitch, and I think they really need to show their intent now more than ever.
Yeah, it's massive. Jeff said in those videos in the summer, which again split sort of fans, he said to trust us. We've got no reason not to trust him because under these times they've given us the best football and times we've seen as Wolves fans in our lifetime, certainly. So he's got until Tuesday to prove that. I'm confident there'll be 2 or 3 signings in, and good signings. I know Bruno says Adama isn't going, but if silly money came in, I don't think they're going to turn it down. No. We're going to wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for watching live. We're ready to follow on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Thank you to former Chelsea, Fulham and Charlton Academy coach Mark Cole, broadcasting all the way from China, and hopefully we'll speak to you again next week. Thank you for watching.